Hello and welcome to Unwind Sessions, where right after my shift I give the highlights of my workday and answer any questions that might have been asked at a previous session. My name is Juan. I am an English, Spanish, medical video remote consecutive interpreter with over 4 years of experience. And today it's Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. Today I took a total of 30 sessions, just like always. They're always around between 26 to 35 sessions every day. And today it was mostly video sessions. I don't remember how many audio sessions I had, but there were too few. I wish I had more today. So yeah, let's get right to it. I got a couple of words and a couple of a couple of unique situations that happened, and then I'm gonna answer one of our viewers' questions, um, which I didn't get to answer yesterday because I have a very long answer for her. So yeah, let's get started. Now, today, the first word that I learned today was adenomyosis. The Spanish translation for that is adenomyosis. And the definition from the mayoclinic.org is that adenomyosis occurs when the tissue that normally lines the uterus, the endometrial tissue, grows into the muscular wall of the uterus. That sounds very painful. The displaced tissue continues to act normally, thickening, breaking down, and bleeding during each menstrual cycle, and enlarged uterus and painful heavy periods can result. Now, that sounds very painful, and the lady was in a lot of pain. I feel very bad for her, and I hope they can um, get her rid of that pain. But yeah, this was my new word. I was actually lucky enough to be able to catch it. I didn't have to ask for the translation. I looked it up in Google first because I wasn't sure I was going to find it in Lingui. So I looked it up in Google, found it, and then I was able to translate it to interpret it very quickly. And another new word today is ep- epidid- epididymis, 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 epididymis. I'm sorry, I'm struggling with that word, but and I listened to the pronunciation. It's a little weird. Epididymis. There you go. I got it. And the translation for that is epididymos. And to be honest, I didn't remember this word. I didn't remember what the word meant, but I remembered that I had heard it before and that the translation was the same. So we're pretty close because the Spanish translation is epididymos and the word in English is epididymis. So yeah, it sounds very similar. And I actually went ahead and I translated it as epididymis. So I messed up on one letter, but since I didn't know that the um, the definition, I went ahead and I looked it up, and I found out that I said it wrong, and that's why I am including it here. And the Google translation for this is that an epididymis is a highly convoluted duct behind the testes along which sperm passes to the vas deferens. Now, it was a little boy who had a cyst in his epididymis, and the doctor just wanted to watch the cyst to see if it would grow or something. So yeah, the little kid wasn't having pain or anything. They were just gonna watch it. So yeah, those are my two words for today. I hope they help you increase your vocabulary. I know it's gonna help me. And I want to talk to you about a couple more things. Of course, this was a dreaded, for me, a dreaded food order session because, like I mentioned before, I don't like the food orders because, first of all, I don't really know all of the foods and dishes that they prepare. Sometimes they have some funky things that I've never even heard of. And number two, when they translate it, like the translation is just, let's just say it's not good. Or it is good, but since I've never even heard it, it doesn't even matter since I don't understand it, right? It's like you could say something and then translate it, and I've never heard that dish before, so I'm gonna struggle with it. And I dislike this call because of that. But of course, it's my duty, and I don't back down, I don't back away from them, right? So yeah, let me go ahead and tell you the first thing that happened. So the lady asked for a menu, and they gave her a menu, and they told her that today's special was country fried steak. Now, for some reason, I have never heard of country fried steak in the U.S. When I was in the U.S., I never heard of country fried steak, and I didn't make the connection. So I was struggling with that. I was like, whoa, what's a country fried steak? So I felt under pressure, and I said, um, bistec frito. So that's like fried steak. That's not country fried steak. And it was not after I actually gave my interpretation that I realized that country fried steak sounds like country fried chicken. And I actually looked it up, and well, it's like a country fried steak. It's like instead of chicken, they use steak, right? And I don't know why my mind didn't make that connection until I already interpreted it. So of course, once I knew this information, um, maybe it's because I get nervous during these sessions because I don't know what the dishes are gonna be, right? So I'm just ready for it, and my brain just didn't make the connection. And of course, it wasn't bad, but it's not correct, right? It's, country fried steak is not a fried steak. It is, but it's a breaded fried steak, right? So, in my opinion, the correct translation for country fried steak would be bistec empanizado. You could say frito if you want, which is country fried steak. But I just thought that was very funny how my brain was not able to make the connection, country fried steak, country fried chicken. So yeah, that is something that happened today. So now I know if they ever say country fried steak, I'm gonna be interpreting it as bistec empanizado. So I hope that helps some of you as well. And something that I found very funny, and this was the very same session as well. As interpreters, you should know that we are not allowed to use words borrowed from English. For example, the word sandwich. Now, my children, if I tell them my children don't speak English, by the way. If I tell them a sandwich, they know exactly what I'm talking about, and I use sandwich. And whenever I'm gonna make them a sandwich, I ask if they want a sandwich, and all of my family and pretty much everyone in Mexico, I'm pretty sure, and I'll guarantee you that pretty much everyone in Mexico, if you tell them a sandwich, they will know what a sandwich is. And unfortunately, we have to use the correct word in Spanish because we're interpreters, right? And we cannot use the word sandwich. So the correct translation for sandwich in Spanish is emparedado. Now, I honestly never heard someone use the word emparedado in Mexico except in cartoons. But it's the same thing, right? The translator that is doing the cartoons is not allowed to put sandwich because it's wrong. So since we're not allowed to do that, you hear it in cartoons that have been translated, right? So I went ahead, and the lady wanted a sandwich, and she said she wanted a sandwich. So she wanted a sandwich. She asked for a sandwich. I translated it. Or I didn't interpret. I just left it the same, right? The LEP said sandwich. I said sandwich. But the person that was taking the order said sandwich, so I had to interpret it as emparedado, right? And when I said emparedado, the lady looked at me and she said like, "Oh my God, I don't even know what an emparedado is." And of course that struck me very funny because that had never happened before. I believe people know what an emparedado is, but it's never used. Like they just use sandwich. I think that should just be adopted, right? Well, it is adopted, but I think it should be officially adopted. But anyways, So the lady didn't understand, and she asked me, and of course I couldn't tell the lady that was taking the order. I don't understand what a sandwich is, because well, the lady said sandwich, and I said sandwich, and we were all in our understanding that sandwich. But when the word emparedado came out, the lady just didn't understand it anymore. So I had to let the lady know that I had to let both of them know that I am not allowed to say sandwiches if I'm talking Spanish as an interpreter, right? So I went ahead and I told the person that was taking the order, and I told the lady, and then we could get on with our lives, right? After that. So that just struck me very funny, because I mean, that's a word that rarely is used here in Mexico, and of course, this lady didn't understand it. So, yeah, I mean, there you go. I mean, she understood sandwich, but not emparedado, right? And there's certain words like that as well. Of course, I can't think of any of them I can't think of any of them off the top of my head, but I think I should do like a future session talking about those things, like words that have been borrowed from English that are really used, and that we don't use the real Spanish term here in Mexico, as far as I know, right? Uh, so yeah, that was those are my highlights, and I am going to go to answer one of our viewers' questions, and her name is Adelita Garza. Now her question says, any advice for taking addresses and emails? I just started interpreting this month, and I've had so many breakdowns. I am having trouble understanding the accents, or sometimes they mumble, and when I ask for repetitions, they get mad. Now, regarding the accents, I've done a previous session on accents that I've labeled as accents. There's one that says heavy accents, and then there's another one that says accents. I think they're different. I don't remember. But yeah, go ahead and go and look at those sessions. There's some gold if you're um, struggling with accents. So yeah, let me give you my advice. And in my experience, this that you're not able to write down the addresses and the emails, it comes from inexperience. Let me tell you why. Because when I started working as an interpreter, now I hated asking for repetitions, because I felt like um, it made me feel like I was not a good interpreter, or that my skill set as an interpreter was not good enough if I needed to ask for repetition, right? I don't know why. If this is your case, then this is really going to help you. If not, then I'm still going to I'm going to answer your question thoroughly. So, for some reason, I don't know. Maybe I thought that if I asked for a repetition, then the providers or the LEPs were going to think that I was not a good interpreter. They were going to think that I was a beginner, that I was not paying attention. I don't know. I just had all of this. Um, damn, I just had a brain fart. I forgot the word. So I just had all of this mental blocks, if you will, or I know there's a specific word for it. I can't think of it at this time. Or prejudice. I don't know. Yeah, I think but I don't know. But anyway, I'm sorry about that. But anyways, like I just had all of these mental blocks on my mind why I didn't want to ask or I didn't like asking for repetitions. So I didn't, right? And it actually took me a while to actually realize that that was wrong, and that asking for repetitions is perfectly fine and it's part of the job. And ask for repetition, guys. Ask for repetitions. Don't be like me. Oh man, I just hit the mic. Don't be like me. Ask for repetitions in the beginning, and the more you get used to asking for repetitions, the better it's gonna be. Of course, the less repetitions that you ask on a session, like that's better, right? That the session is gonna flow. But if you have to ask for a repetition, ask for a repetition. Don't guess, don't assume. Don't think they're gonna, and even if they get mad, who cares? You're doing your job. So just ask for repetitions. Ask for repetitions. That is like a very, 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 very big one. And now that I am a good interpreter, at least in my mind, right? Nah, I think I am pretty good. I don't know. I haven't evaluated, and they've said that I'm pretty good. So yeah, I'm gonna take their word for it. So, so humble, right? So yeah. So now that I'm a good interpreter, I know that no one is going to get everything on the first pass. There's a lot of things that can happen, and accents being one of them, mumbling, connections, technical. So there's a load of things that can go wrong, and that is going to impair the message, and you're not going to be able to hear it, right? So if any of those things happen, go ahead and ask for a repetition, because you have to make sure that you completely understand the message before you go ahead and interpret it, right? So now, if I have to ask for repetition 10 times, believe me, I am not going to hesitate, and I am going to go ahead and I am going to ask for as many repetitions as I need so that I can get that message. And I do so because now I am not worried anymore. I have confidence in my skills and my ability and my experience, that I really don't care if they don't think that I'm a good interpreter or not. That lack of confidence has washed away with all of the years of experience, and now my focus is to make sure that I understand, and that I completely understand the message before giving a rendition, right? What worries me now is that I might not give a good interpretation, and that the patient or the provider are gonna call me out on that. That's what worries me the most, right? So you bet your ASS that I'm gonna make sure that I understand the message, and I suggest that you do too. And if I have to ask 10, 20 times for them to give me the message so that I can understand it, or if I have to ask them to tell me the message in a different way, then believe me, I'm gonna do that, and I'm not gonna stop until I understand that message so that I can give what I understood, right? So yeah, just go ahead and do that. Repetitions, repetitions, repetitions are a great tool. Please do not feel like you're not good if you have to use them. We all use them. And another thing is that you have to remember that your priority is to ensure a clear and accurate communication between all parties by any means necessary. If you do not understand the accent, ask for as many repetitions as you need so that you can understand. If you cannot hear any of the parties, then go ahead and ask them to move closer to the device, tell them to speak up, do whatever you need to, but make sure that your rendition is accurate. That should be like number one priority. That what the message is that is being said on to you, it goes in here, it gets processed precisely into Spanish, and then it comes out. I don't even know what I'm saying. It comes out of your mind correctly, right? So, and as precise as possible. Now, you have to remember that your job is communication. It is not your job to keep all parties happy, right? But it is your job to make sure that all parties can communicate effectively. Now, people are gonna get mad when you do not understand their accent, and I don't know if you're in a remote or you're in in-person environment, but if you're in a remote environment, one of the advantages that we have is that you could always blame the quality of the connection, right? And before asking for a repetition, if accent is the problem, or if you didn't hear something, you can also blame the connection. But no, I think I only use it with accents. If I didn't hear it, I just asking for a repetition. I don't even think about it. Like I don't even give an explanation or anything, except if it's because of an accent. And sometimes I even don't do that. Uh, So I go ahead and I blame the connection sometimes. When I blame the connection, if I have to ask the person because I don't understand their accent like more than 2 or 3 times, then I'll blame the connection. I'll be like, I'm sorry, the connection is very bad. Would you repeat that one more time for me? And that does it. That usually makes the people feel calm, and it doesn't make them feel as bad. So go ahead and use that. That is a pretty good strategy. That is a pretty good strategy to use. And just know that there, w- I mean, there will be accents. There will be some times where you come across an accent that no matter what, you're not going to understand that accent at all. And maybe not the whole conversation, but there's just going to be like certain words. And one word could change, could make the difference. It could change whole, um, the whole meaning, right? So don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. Don't think that you are a bad interpreter because you don't understand accents. Accents are just things of nightmares, believe me. So I even had a person hang up on me in my early days as an interpreter because I could not understand them. And I let my supervisor know, and she told me not to worry about it. It happens, and she was the one that told me that I could blame the connection whenever that happened, so that they don't get mad, right? And if they get mad, it's not your problem. Your job is to go ahead and ensure the quality of the communication, right? It needs to be perfect. So if you don't understand the accent, you have to ask them many times to understand it. And if they get mad, well, that's not your problem. Don't feel bad or don't think that you need to do something to make them not feel bad. That's not on you. Your job is just to make sure that you are giving an accurate interpretation, and that's it. If they get mad, well, so be it. It's their problem, and after the session, you won't even have to see them again. Now, moving on for the mumbling or the soft speaking. Now, I really hate it when a person does not understand that they need to speak up during the whole session, right? Because you tell them that they need to speak up, and all of a sudden they're speaking up, and then they just go like this. So then you can't hear them anymore, right? You tell them, I'm sorry, this is the interpreter. I'm not able to hear you. Would you speak up, please? And oh, of course, interpreter, I'm gonna speak up, and then it's like, what's the point, right? And then I I really hate that. I really hate that. And then you're not able to hear anything, right? So then you have to ask them to speak up again, and then you have to keep on reminding them that they need to speak up, and it just gets very, very annoying very fast. So I ask them to speak up the first time. If they don't speak up the first time, I ask them to speak up a second time. If they forget, I ask them a third time, and after the third time, I will not ask them anymore. What I will do is that every time that the LEP is speaking, or the doctor or whoever is speaking, mumbling or speaking softly, whenever they speak, I hold my headphone right to my ear, and I can hear them for the most part. Has not been a moment yet where sticking the headphone right next to my ear and pressing it with my hand has not worked. And of course, that you have to remember that every time the soft speaker is speaking, you have to do that, right? And I forget. And it's hard because it's not something that I'm used to, right? So yeah, if you've already told them several times, you're going to have to think up of another strategy, right? For example, in this case, that's what I do. If you're if you're over the phone, then I suggest you do that too as well, and I'm pretty sure that that will work. And of course, I get mad, but then I understand them as well, because when it's my turn, when they can't hear me and I have to speak up, sometimes when I speak to them, I forget that I have to speak up. So I understand them, and I don't like it, and that's probably why I feel a little bit of empathy for them, because of course I put myself in their shoes, and I also do that, right? They tell me to speak up, and I will speak up, but then there will be a time when I forget that I have to speak up, and then they can hear me, and I've already been through like the middle of my utterance or of my interpretation when I remember, oh, they cannot hear me. So then I have to start again, and then I just start yelling. So um, I was, in my case, like, I don't like it. I don't like it when they don't understand. But then again, that's something that I do as well. I don't understand, like, I don't remember all the time, right? So yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. So just do your best. Use the strategies that I have mentioned right now, and you should be okay. Like I told you, like to this date, that's a flawless strategy. I have never been on a session where I've had to use that and it didn't work. Of course, it doesn't work if I don't remember to do it. But as long as you remember to do it, I think that you'll be okay. Moving on to the addresses and emails. Now, one of the most difficult things in the interpreter is taking down addresses, American addresses, from Spanish speakers, right? Because they of course they don't know how to pronounce the terms, and they are just going to pronounce whatever they see or whatever they understand, right? So um, addresses and emails, I will ask for spelling if I don't understand it at the first mention, but I do have to let you know that for the most part, 90% of the time, for emails, it's like 100% of the time I'm asking for a spelling, no matter what. Um, and I'm asking for a spelling for the emails because it might be the easiest email in the world in English, but when you say it in Spanish, the person is going to ask you, can you please spell that? So then you go ahead and you tell the person that speaks English if they can spell it, because of course you cannot spell it on your own because you don't know how it's written, right? So they have to spell it for you, and well, that just saves you the trouble of you yourself asking to spell it. So most of the time, I've noticed that with emails, even if it's in Spanish going into English or English to Spanish, most of the time they will ask you to spell it. Either one of the both parties are going to ask you to spell it. So I don't even worry about that anymore. But if they're not asking you to spell it, go ahead and do it yourself. Ask them to spell it for you. For addresses, now there is a little trick that I am doing with addresses. I've been doing this for quite a while now, maybe 2 years, maybe a little bit more. And something that I do with addresses is, for example, if I don't understand the name of the street or the city that the person or the LEP for the most part, because of course most of the time you are going to understand what the English speaker says, right? Because it's in English. So when they tell you that, sometimes the LEPs are not going to understand and they're going to ask you to spell it. So then you spell it. If not, you just pronounce it in Spanish the best that you can. And if they ask you to spell it, go ahead and spell it. Of course, if I don't understand it, then I will ask them to spell it. That way I can say it correctly to the LEP. But if I know, if I can understand it, then I will not ask for spelling. And so yeah, going back to um, whenever the LEP gives me a street name, and let's say I don't understand it, I don't ask them to spell it the first time. Why don't I ask them to spell it the first time? Because for the most part, they already have that information, right? So they're just checking that it is correct, that it is the correct information that they have on there. So what I do is I will tell the provider, the address is number, and the street name is, and I will pronounce it as I heard it, just like the LEP said it, and then I will add, does that mean anything to you, or would you like for me to ask for the spelling. Now, most of the time, they'll let you know, oh no, I have it written down here, so yeah, that sounds correct. Or, yeah, I'm from around here, so I know where that is. Or something like that, right? And whenever they ask me to spell it, well, of course, I go back and then I ask the LEP to go ahead and spell it. But yeah, most of the time that has saved me, like, you have no idea how many times. And yeah, so that I suggest that you actually go ahead and use that strategy as well, and that is going to save you a lot of time. So yeah, just to recap with that, go ahead and ask for the spelling of, well, no, wait to be asked for the spelling from either parties of the emails. And if you don't get that and you don't understand, then go ahead and ask for the spelling yourself. And for the addresses, remember that go ahead and just mention what you understood. Sorry. So go ahead and mention what you understood, and wait for and ask the person if they need it spelled or not, and that is going to save you a lot of trouble. Now, whenever like they say a street name and it just sounds so strange that you don't even know what they said, there is a trick that I also use, and I tell them, and you can just clarify, you can just ask them to clarify exactly what you missed, right? For example, if you missed just the name of the street, you can go ahead and tell them, oh, I'm sorry, this is the interpreter speaking. I missed the name of the street. Would you be so kind as to please repeat the name of the street and the street name only? Now, it's very important that you mention what you want repeated as many times as you can. And for the most part, they are only going to repeat that little very specific piece of information that you're requesting. And if you don't, if you only tell them like one time, like if you only tell them one time, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the name of the street, can you repeat that for me? I bet you and I guarantee you 90% of the time they're going to repeat the whole address. So if you don't want them to repeat the whole address, go ahead and tell them, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the name of the street. Would you please be so kind as to repeat the name of the street and the name of the street only, or whatever, or the name of the city, or whatever. But yeah, you need to tell them several times. I don't know why that happens. It's a phenomenon that I cannot explain. But if you don't believe me, go ahead and try it, and you'll see that if you only say one time, they don't care, like they don't listen, they just hear address, or I don't know, and they just give you the whole address. So that is my suggestion for you. If you just have a very specific piece of information, go ahead and let them know that they need to repeat that specific piece of information 3 times if you don't want anything else repeated. And even so, 10% of the time, I guarantee you, they will repeat the whole address. So yeah, those are my tips for me and for your questions. And just as a recap, it is your job to make sure that you hear and understand everything correctly before giving your rendition. That is priority. And don't be afraid to do your job. You're the boss. If you did not understand or could not write the whole thing down, then you have to ask for a repetition to do it right, or you're not doing your job. So guys, repetitions, repetitions. Learn how to ask for repetitions. Get over the fear of asking for repetitions. If you had a fear like I had myself and I just smacked the mic again, I had to remember not to do that. So yeah, I mean, ask for repetitions, ask for repetitions. And once again, don't be afraid to ask for repetitions. And would you rather do a good job and have an angry client, or would you rather have a happy client and do a lousy job? So it shouldn't, like, you shouldn't care if the person gets angry, right? Like, that's their thing. You're doing your job. If they get angry if you're doing your job, then whatever, you know? Who cares? I'm doing my job. If you don't like it, how I do my job, then they can always request another interpreter, right? not a problem. Having said that, make sure that you always speak politely and professional to clients, right? You don't want to piss them off just to piss them off, of course. But if you're doing your job and you're doing your job correctly, politely, and professional, and they get pissed off, then hey, don't even sweat it. Don't even give them a fraction of your mind. Don't even waste a neuron on that. And that is the advice that I can give you. That will be pretty much it for me today. Thank you very much for your questions and for your question as well. So yeah, please leave your questions on the comments and I will answer some of them on the next session. Remember that I'll be here every Monday through Friday after work. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you have not done so. Like the video for more content and don't forget to share. Happy interpreting. Goodbye.